Hey, what's up, VC? It's Steve again. Harmless Rebel. This time it's time for another album review. This time we're gonna jump in on the new Riot album. Many of you may not have heard about it yet. It doesn't actually come out until I believe October. Yeah, it looks like mid to late October here in the U.S. But it was actually released on August 27th in Japan, and that's the reason that I've heard it and gotten the opportunity to spend a little time with it. The new album is called Unleash the Fire. Please excuse me looking to the right here a little bit. I've got the track information and the album information pulled up, so I'm not doing it off of memory. Riot's been around since, oh my god, 77 or 78 was their first album, and they've been around pretty much nonstop since. I know they broke up in the late 80s for a couple of years, and then in 2012 Mark Reale, who was kind of the last, he was one of the two founding members, but he was the last original member that was still in the band. He passed away from Crohn's disease, and the band, we were told that was the end of the band. And then the remaining members decided to get back together with a new guitarist and put something new out, which is Unleash the Fire. Riot has kind of bounced around a little bit. They've gone from hard rock to heavy metal, and then in the late 80s they moved into power metal, and that's kind of where they've stayed since then. Now, in all honesty, I kind of lost track of Riot, I would say about 1989, 1990. I think Thundersteel was the last album that I bought of theirs, and that was, I believe, 88. Don't quote me on that. It may have been 89, but it was in that general area. And a lot of that had to do with just kind of my tastes, not even my tastes, but what I was listening to at the time shifted a little bit, and then into the early 2000s when I got into the more alternative, the Alice in Chains, the Soundgarden, bands like that, and then shortly after I got back into heavy metal, but I just never really got back into Riot. There's no real reason behind it. I always liked Riot. I loved all of their albums. Narita was probably my favorite. Now, on a side note, before I forget, I believe in the US they're going to release it as Riot 5 or Riot V, as opposed to just calling it Riot. And from what I've read, that's because they're saying that this is the 5th iteration of Riot. I would say that that's pretty crazy. They've probably had about 30 iterations of Riot, but I guess officially on paper. That's one thing about Riot. They have been through probably 20 or 30 different band members. They've been fraught with tragedy. I mean, they had one member die of cancer. One of their singers, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, was killed in a carjacking here in Atlanta. And then, obviously, as I just mentioned, Mark Reale died in 2012 of Crohn's disease. All pretty young guys. I want to say that he was in his early 50s, if I remember correctly. But I probably wouldn't have even caught on to this album or looked at this album if not for my friend Jason in Japan. I got an email from him saying, "Hey, have you heard the new Riot?" And I said, God, I haven't heard Riot in probably 15 years. Or a new Riot. I actually have, just about 6 months ago, I bought one of their albums on LP, and I have given that a couple of spins. And I've always been a fan of Riot, like I said, but I haven't caught up or kept up with them. And he said, you got to hear this. You got to hear this. And so he sent me a rip. And thank you, Jason. That was awesome of you to do that. And I was blown away. I mean, seriously, I'm going to have to go back. I don't know if this is a one-off thing or if their last 4 or 5 albums have been this good. It's just killer power metal. The first 6 songs are amazing. Everything about them is just beautiful. And then I want to say, yeah, songs 7 and 8 move more towards 7 is Kilt to Survive. It kind of transitions between a heavy metal In the verse, it's heavy metal, and then the chorus, and at the end in the breakdown, it moves back into power metal. Return to the Outlaws track 8 is really the only track on the album I didn't really dig. It's not a bad track. It's actually kind of a good song. I just don't feel that it really fits that well with the album. But songs 1 through 6 are definitely the strong points, and song number 10. It starts off just fast, killer power metal with Ride Hard, Live Free. Track 2, Metal Warrior, killer. Lyrically, the hook is amazing. The riffs are amazing. Number 3 is Fall from the Sky, by far my favorite track on here. It's got a very Iron Maiden, Run for the Hills vibe to it. A very new wave of British metal mixed with power metal. I mean, it's a beautiful song beginning to end. I actually listened to that song. The first time I heard it, I went back and listened to it 3 times in a row. That's how much I like that song. And I've gotten a chance to listen through the whole album, I think about 4 times now. And, you know, a lot usually happens in those first 4 or 5 listens. Usually, if I don't like an album, I don't like it right away. But every once in a while, I give it that second listen, and I hear something. And by the 3rd and 4th listen, you know, is when I'll really make that decision. I love this album from the beginning. And again, some albums I listen to the first time, I think they sound amazing. But then when I give it a more in-depth listen over the next 2 or 3 spins, I end up not liking it. And that happens quite a bit as well. This is not one of those albums. It sounded just as good every time I've listened to it. Like I said, track number 8, Return to the Outlaw, I could do without. I have a copy of the Japanese pressing as well. Most Japanese pressings come with additional songs. This one does as well. Track 13 is a live version of Thunder Steel. I didn't look online to see when that was recorded, but it's all right. You know, it's nothing to jump up and down about. I think they could have... the U.S. pressing, I know that's being left off. Don't feel like you're missing anything by not having that live track on there. This is an album that I highly recommend to everybody. I recommend you pick this up. If you like new wave of British metal, if you're into Iron Maiden, if you're into power metal, if you're into Accept, I pick up this album. It's great. If you like Riot, it's definitely worth picking up. I'm going to go ahead and actually pre-order this right now. Tell me what you think. I know there's a couple songs available already online. I think they've released one video. Check it out. See what you think. Tell me if you like it. Leave some comments. Take care, BC.